Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Malahide's regular meeting of council and committee of the whole on August 15th. Welcome back after a little break. I hope everybody's refreshed and as refreshed as our council chambers. So probably everyone noticed a bit of a change. So I really want to, this has been a great project and a great team effort. So I truly want to acknowledge all the staff that were involved. In particular, I think we had Talia and Frank and Kylie. Everybody put their expertise and skills, sometimes hidden skills maybe, to achieve a true Malahide solution, frugal, cost-effective, right? Looking professional and very practical in terms of what we were trying to achieve. So many, many thanks and welcome back, everyone. I'll officially call the meeting to order then at 7:01. And we'll begin by with the approval of the agenda. Are there any changes or additions? Do you want to add? Yeah.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So there was an addition, an addendum added this afternoon to section J, new business item PW 2434, Pressy Line Reconstruction Deferral Report.
Thank you for that. Not seeing anything else, so can I have a motion, please?
That the August 15th, 2024 regular council meeting agenda be approved with the following additions. Section J, new business item PW 2434, Pressy Line Reconstruction Deferral Report.
Thank you. Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Wilson moves. Councillor Lewis seconds. All in favor? That is carried. Any disclosure of pecuniary interest? Deputy Mayor Widner.
Yes, thank you. The petition for drainage for Hayhoe, petition for drainage for Dyke, and both tender awards for Ketchabah and Priester, I guess. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Glinsky.
The Hayhoe drain, item number 16, in session 4, lot 2829, Pritchard Drain, Hayhoe Drain. They run across my property, even though Hayhoe is not built yet, it will feed into the Pritchard Drain apparently.
Okay, thank you for that. That is noted. Next on the agenda is announcements. Deputy Mayor Widner.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Just want to say we had a fire on my road there tonight at the local turkey farm. I had a front row seat because I rent the property beside it. I was very, very impressed with the fire service. They did an excellent job. I mean, this thing's like 600 or 700 feet long. It's like eating an elephant. What do you do when you get there? Because it was fully engulfed. And they systematically did an approach. They just started to knock it down. And next morning, there wasn't a puff of smoke out of the whole building. They did a great job and saved the other buildings. So kudos to them. They did a great job. And it's nice to see. I was really proud because, you know, our equipment, our men, our training, and everything all came to be. And sometimes we should sit there and watch one of these fires being fought to appreciate what they do. So thank you.
Thank you. It's always important to, share that recognition. I appreciate that. Any other announcements? None. We'll move to the adoption of minutes. We have in our package, the minutes from our last meeting on July 4th. Any errors or omissions? Seeing none, we have the motion, please.
That the minutes of the regular meeting of council held on July 4th, 2024 be adopted.
Mover and seconder. Deputy Mayor Widner moves. Councillor Lewis seconds. All in favor? That is carried. Okay, next we have a number of public meetings. We'll begin with the zoning bylaw amendment application. And I'd like to call that meeting to order with the following resolution, please.
That the public meeting relating to the zoning bylaw amendment application of Diana and Martin Langlos relating to the property located at reference plan 53, part lot 1, 12, 13, and 15, South Dorchester, and known municipally as 51150 Rod McNeil Line be called to order at 7:05 p.m.
Mover and seconder, please. Counselor Lewis moves, Counselor Wilson seconds. All in favor? That is carried. Just want to make sure I have the correct, this is the line blower. Right. Okay, so as was mentioned, this is a public meeting as required by the Planning Act to allow any person an opportunity to make representation with respect to a proposed zoning bylaw amendment relating to the property located at reference plan 53, part lot 1, 12, 13, and 15, South Dorchester, Township of Malahide, and known municipally as 51-150 Ron McNeil Line. Clerk Adams, what method of notice and when was the notice given to, for this public meeting?
The public meeting was advertised in the Elmer Express for 2 consecutive weeks on July 31st and August the 7th. In addition, affected property owners within 120 meters were sent a notice by mail at minimum 20 days prior to this meeting.
Thank you. Mr. Steele, welcome in person. Great to see you. Could you provide an overview of the application and let us know if there have been any comments received, please?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Before council this evening is a zoning bylaw amendment for property on the northwest intersection of Ron McNeil Line and Whitaker Road. This property currently contains a mixed-use building with 2 commercial units and 2 residential units on the main floor, with 5 residential units located on the second floor. Based on information provided, the application states that these units were established prior to the passing of the 2005 Township Zoning Bylaw. The zoning bylaw currently permits residential dwelling units that are accessory to commercial use in the general commercial zone, provided they're located above the ground floor. The owner is proposing to rezone the subject lands to recognize these existing uses and have them permitted on a site-specific zone. The intended provision of not having a little louder. Okay, sorry. Let me know if I need to. The intent of the provision to have the accessory residential units on the second. The intent of having the residential units permitted on above the main floor is to ensure they remain accessory to the main commercial use. The residential units will be located to the rear of the existing building, and the 2 commercial units will continue to have front onto the main street and be visible as a primary use. Additionally, there are no changes to the existing servicing or sanitary or well that currently service the property. In addition, the application would require site-specific amendments to include reduction in parking. The bylaw requires 1 space per residential unit, whereas they're currently providing 6 parking spaces on site. It's not the existing building, the subject lands covers approximately half of the subject property, and is currently restrained by an irregular shape. And as a result, subject lands would not likely accommodate parking required for either residential units and commercial uses together. It's also noted that the proposed reduction parking for the existing residential uses would allow for the units to remain as part of the existing housing stock within the community. It is also noted that if these residential units were converted to a commercial use, the minimum parking requirements would be even greater than would be required than if they remained residential. Additionally, there's currently no off-street commercial parking provided on the property, and so the application proposes to seek relief to provide no off-street commercial parking spaces, whereas the bylaw requires 1 space per 25 square meters for a total of 12 parking spaces on the property. As previously noted, the site is constrained by the current location of the existing building, but as noted, there is ample off-street or on-street parking provided in each direction along the line that would be able to service the existing commercial uses. Comments were provided from 1 member of the public raising concerns that the proposed reduction in parking would impact the intersection of Ron McNeil Line and Whitaker Road. These comments also note concerns relating to challenges with pedestrian crossings in the area, as well as generally concerns of safety with regards to truck traffic and large vehicles moving along the line, and conclude with a request for a road safety audit for the area. Staff note that these residential and commercial uses are currently existing, and there be no increase in traffic proposed as part of the application. And would note that concerns relating to amounts of traffic or pedestrian safety and crossings would be best directed to the County of Elgin, who has the jurisdiction of being the road authority for both Ron McNeil Line and Whitaker Road. It is known that the township could provide support for those requests made by a resident to the county to assist in addressing those residents' concerns. And that concludes my presentation. I've had any questions from members of council.
Okay, thank you for that. And Clerk Adams, have you received any additional written submissions on this proposal?
No additional written submissions have been submitted.
And is there anyone in attendance in person or on Zoom wishing to add comments? So if there's no comments to be added, then I'll turn it to members of council for questions or comments. Deputy Mayor Widner.
Thank you, Mayor. I guess we did get a letter though in opposition, correct? Okay, Councilor Stern and I, a few weeks ago, were met by some residents of that building, and their complaint was there isn't enough parking now, and they were having an awful time finding spots to park and to unload their cars to take their things upstairs, or take, upstairs, I guess, so. Are these apartments already in place? Do you know, or? Okay. Yes, that was their complaint. I take them seriously. We're supposed to consult the public. We were consulted ourselves out here for probably about half, 3/4 of an hour, and it was good to meet them. And so I think I'd have a little trouble supporting that unless there's a better plan for parking. So thank you.
Any comments on parking suggestions?
Mayor, Chief Councilor.
Yeah, currently the amount of parking provided on site has been existing for, as far as we know, the length of time that these both commercial and residential units have been existing. Yeah, like I said, the site is limited in its space, and the neighboring adjacent properties are all also developed, so expansion of the existing property would be unlikely. In terms of sort of long-term options, yeah, it's really the intent of this application is to recognize the existing use primarily, to for certain that if this was a greenfield or redevelopment of the site, there would definitely be more attention to parking and adequate provision.
Thank you for those comments. Any further questions? Looking at, I have to remember to look at the screen, Councillor Leach, so we may have to wave, get our attention if we forget. We're happy you're able to join us from a distance.
I'm also concerned about the degree and amount of parking in that particular area. And with the limited amount of nearby parking for that downtown area and specifically, I think that we either need to develop a plan to increase parking, or we need to find a way, because the housing units are valuable and required, but if people don't have anywhere to park, it just moves a headache down the road, literally. And also the map, Wellington Street, it should be Whitaker Road.
Yes, thank you for those comments. So if we wanted to look at additional solutions for parking, would that be with the county then, or with Malahide staff?
To Madam Mayor, in terms of sort of long-term solutions, one policy did identify is that the official plan does contain policies that do allow for payments of cash in lieu of parking, where parking is not proposed to meet minimum requirements. Staff have reviewed the current parking bylaw doesn't contain any sort of implementation provisions for calculating how much that cash payment would be and how it is collected. So in terms of long-term plans, it's something that the township could investigate further of, if there's other developments that take place in this area, that could be a method of collecting payments that would go towards specifically looking at options of funding either additional on-street or off-street parking that would be available for the community.
Okay, thank you for that. So it wouldn't be for this particular application, but for future application in the area. Okay. Thank you for that. So further questions or comments? Counselor Wilson?
It's well, the situation definitely isn't ideal, but it's hard to take away much needed housing. So that's sort of the crux of it.
Agreed, as Counselor Leach mentioned as well. So, yeah. So any further comments? And seeing none, if there is no further discussion, then please be advised that any person wishing further information regarding the passing of the proposed bylaw amendment should contact the clerk. And with that, we can proceed with the adjournment of this particular public meeting in consideration of the planner's report with the following resolution, please.
That the public meeting relating to zoning bylaw amendment application of Diana and Martin Langlos relating to the property located at reference plan 53, part lot 1, 12, 13, and 15, South Dorchester, and known municipally as 51150 Ron McNeil Line be adjourned at 7:16 PM.
Mover and seconder, please. Counselor Lewis moves. Counselor Glinsky seconds. All in favor? Sorry, can I see the hands? Sorry. So all in favor? And that
It's just to adjourn.
is just to adjourn the meeting. This was just to adjourn the meeting, right? Okay. Either way, that carries. So we can move on to our next. The next we'll do the resolution to consider the report. Yes, please. Go ahead.
The report number DS 2435 entitled zoning bylaw amendment application of Diana and Martin Langlos relating to the property located at reference plan 53, part lot 1, 12, 13, and 15, South Dorchester, 51150 Ron McNeil Line be received, and that the zoning bylaw amendment application number D14 Z1522 of Diana and Martin Langlos relating to the property located at reference plan 53, part lot 1, 12, 13, and 15, South Dorchester, 51150 Ron McNeil Line, Township of Malahide be approved for the reasons set out in this report.
So this resolution is for the approval of the report. So mover and seconder first, please. Counselor Lewis moves. Counselor Wilson seconds. Any further comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Counselor Glinsky? And so that is carried. Thank you for that. So now we can move to the next application. Again, with a resolution to begin.
At the public meeting relating to the zoning bylaw amendment, general housekeeping amendment relating to the lands within the Township of Malahide be called to order at 7:18 PM.
Mover and seconder, please. Counselor Wilson moves. Counselor Lewis seconds. I was seeing in the future. All those in favor? And that is carried. This is a public meeting as required by the Planning Act to allow any person an opportunity to make representation with respect to a proposed zoning bylaw amendment relating to lands within the Township of Malahide. So Clerk Adams, what method of notice and what was the notice given for this public meeting?
This public meeting was advertised in the Elmer Express for 2 consecutive weeks on July 31st and August 7th. In addition, affected property owners within 120 meters were sent a notice by mail at minimum 20 days prior to the meeting.
Thank you. Mr. Steele, can you provide an overview of the application and let us know if there were any comments received, please?
So this application is a housekeeping amendment to make some alterations to the proposing amendments to the current zoning bylaw. During the previous official plan review, the township received a number of comments expressing interest in housing options within the agricultural areas of the township. And as part of this process, Township Council adopted official plan amendment number 20, which include policies that permit second dwelling units within the agricultural areas. And as a result, this housekeeping amendment is being brought forward to implement those policies within the township's zoning bylaw to permit those uses as of right. Currently, the township zoning bylaw only permits second dwelling units in the residentially zoned properties of the township settlement areas. And so this housekeeping amendment would introduce secondary dwelling units as permitted use in the general agricultural A1, large lot agricultural A3, small lot agricultural A4, and rural residential RR zones. Staff have prepared these policies based on township criteria within the official plan, including that secondary dwelling units be located in close proximity to the existing farm building cluster, as well as that they be of a size and design to render it clearly accessory to the main dwelling. Additionally, into reviewing the official plan policies, staff have also completed a jurisdictional scan to evaluate what other municipalities have implemented through similar types of uses. And so staff are proposing that the maximum floor area of a secondary dwelling unit, an accessory structure, be a maximum of 60% of the floor area of the main dwelling, up to a cap of a maximum of 125 square meters. Additionally, secondary units would also be permitted within an existing dwelling up to a size of 40% of the principal dwelling's floor area to a maximum of 75 square meters. Based on a review of other policies, these are on a larger size compared to what other municipalities have implemented. And the reasoning behind this is to provide greater flexibility within the township for providing different sort of secondary housing options, such as what is called granny flats or suites. Also help with farm succession in terms of parents living on a farm and passing on to sixth generation. Additionally, the amendment also include provisions regarding a request from St. Thomas Elgin Child Care Services. This request was related to a proposal to increase options of providing child care within the township. Currently, the township's bylaw requires that in cases where more than 5 persons or children are being cared for, it would be defined as a daycare facility and is only permitted in institutional zones. And so the St. Thomas Elgin Child Care Services has requested we amend the bylaw to increase that number to more than 6, which would align with the Child Care and Early Years Act, which specifically defines home child care as providing for 6 or less children. And so staff are proposing that the bylaw be amended to align with this request in the effort of increasing home child care options within the township. Comments were received from a member of the public who is a child care provider voicing support for the proposed amendment and the change to the definition. And that concludes our presentation. Commissioners, members of council.
Great, thank you. Clerk Adams, have you received any additional written submission for this proposal?
No additional written comments have been received.
And is there anyone in person or on Zoom wishing to comment further? There were no comments, right? Okay. And with that, then I'll turn it over to council for any questions or comments. Mr. Steele, I just have a quick question. I know in the new PPS, there was discussion of permission for a third dwelling. And so I'm wondering if in doing this housekeeping, we should be moving towards that, including that in our official plan as well, or does that have to do with the zoning? If you could clarify, please.
To you, Madam Mayor. So there is a draft of the provincial policy statement that is currently being reviewed by the province that did include wording to permit up to 2 additional residential units within agricultural areas. That draft PPS has done several revisions, and as the review has been maybe over a year, has been underway, so it's unknown exactly when that policy will come into effect. If it does, then that would likely require amendments to both the county and township official plan, as both official plans would only limit to 1 secondary dwelling unit. So it would be advised that probably the best option would be waiting until that policy actually comes into effect, and then it would sort of trickle down from the county amendment, township amended its official plan, and then implement in the zoning bylaw. And then also I would note, this would provide seek to address fair number of inquiries that have been coming from members of the public to start implementing this as well.
Yes, I agree. I think I received the same inquiries, so I know there's a lot of interest in that. So that's why I'm happy you could clarify the status. So it's on the table. It's just a matter of it hasn't fully passed yet. Okay, great. Stay tuned. Any further comments or questions? So there's no further discussion, then please be advised that any person wishing further information regarding the passing of this proposed bylaw amendment should contact the clerk. Now we'll proceed with the first motion to adjourn this public meeting.
That the public meeting relating to the zoning bylaw amendment, general housekeeping amendment relating to the lands within the township of Malahide be adjourned at 7:25 PM.
Mover and seconder, please. Counselor Leach moves. Counselor Lewis seconds. All in favor? That is carried. And the next motion is to receive and approve this bylaw.
The report number DS 2423 entitled Zoning Bylaw Application D14Z0924 General Housekeeping Amendment relating to the lands within the township of Malahide be received, and that council hold a public meeting to obtain comments from members of the public, and that the staff be directed to bring forward a final bylaw for consideration by council at a subsequent meeting.
Thank you for that. It's not approving, we're receiving it. And we'll hold the public meeting at a later date. So mover and seconder for this motion, Deputy Mayor Widner moves, Counselor Wilson seconds, all in favor? That is carried. Thank you. And our next application for rezoning as well. We'll begin with calling that meeting, the public meeting to order, please, with the resolution.
The public meeting relating to the zoning bylaw amendment application of 584012 Ontario Limited, Co. Bert Brower, relating to the property located at concession 5, part of lot 31, 32, and 33, and known municipally as 52773 Chalet Line, be called to order at 7:27 PM.
Mover and seconder. Counselor Lewis moves. Counselor Wilson seconds, all in favor? That is carried. So I was stated, this is a public meeting as required by the Planning Act to allow any person an opportunity to make representation with respect to a proposed zoning bylaw amendment relating to property located at concession 5, part of lot 31, 32, and 33, Township of Malahide, and known municipally as 52773 Chalet Line. Clerk Adams, can you tell us the method of notice and when the notice was given for this public meeting?
The public meeting notice was given in the Elmer Express for 2 consecutive weeks on July 31st and August 7th. In addition, affected property owners within 120 meters were sent a notice by mail at minimum 20 days prior to this meeting.
Thank you. And Mr. Steele, once again, can you provide an overview of this application, please? And let us know if there were any comments as well.
So the zoning bylaw amendment application is submitted as condition of a previous approval of severance application E76-23, which was submitted to permit a lot addition to sever approximately 35.9 hectares of land and convey it to the adjacent farm parcel to the south. And these lands are currently zoned largely agricultural A3 and would remain within the A3 zone when merged on title with the adjacent farm parcel. The retained parcel would have an area of approximately 7.4 hectares, which would not meet the minimum requirements of the zoning bylaw, which requires a minimum lot area for A1 zone parcels as 20 hectares. The parcel would contain existing single detached dwelling, ancestry buildings, as well as continue to propose to use for a 4-acre tree farm. Planning staff had previously recommended that the original consent application not be supported, just based on review of the applicable provincial and municipal planning policies. However, this severance application was supported by township council and approved conditionally by land division committee at the county. And so while staff did not recommend approval, we have provided a bylaw should council continue to support the proposal. No comments were received prior to the meeting from agencies or members of the public.
Thank you for this overview. Clerk Adams, have you received any additional written submissions?
No additional written submissions were received.
Thank you. Is there anyone attending in person who, or on Zoom? No, I don't see anyone else on Zoom who wishes to speak to this application?
Good evening.
Anything to add?
Hello, can you hear me?
Oh, yes, we can.
Oh, hi. Good evening, everyone. My name's Mark Stone. I'm with MLS Planning Consulting, and I just want to say a few things, if that's okay.
Please go ahead.
Yeah, I'm here representing Bert and Krista Brower, and they're the owners of the property. I really didn't plan to say too much this evening, but given the staff recommendation, I felt compelled to at least make a few comments. I'll just note that the justification in the staff report for denying the zoning bylaw amendment appears to be focused on the fact that the consent application considered last year could not be supported by staff. But As you know, this council considered the consent at its meeting in November of last year, provided support for the application to the Land Division Committee, and the Land Division Committee subsequently agreed and approved the consent. There were no appeals of the consent. And with the decision of the Land Division Committee last year, this really isn't any longer a question of whether or not the consent is appropriate. I understand there have been no comments from township departments, agencies, or the public in response to this application. Based on my review, there's no planning justification that has been provided to support denial of the proposed zoning bylaw amendment. But on the other hand, as I stated, in support of the proposed consent in this application, the frontage and size of the proposed lots will be sufficient to accommodate existing and permitted uses. The properties will continue to be used for agricultural purposes. And this zoning bylaw amendment application before you is really only required to ensure that the approved lot complies with zoning, to recognize the lot size of the retained lot approved by the Land Division Committee. This application is simply required to implement a Planning Act decision. So on this basis, I ask that council support the application and pass the proposed zoning bylaw, which I think is number 24-42. Thank you.
Thank you for providing that additional context and history. Much appreciated. Any further comments? There's no one else from the public. I'll turn it over to members of council. Councillor Wilson.
If I remember correctly, Councillor Cerna was in great support of this lay of the land. I don't know it as well as he did, and well, I think if he was here, he would tell us.
Deputy Mayor Widner.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I know Mr. Cerna would be, in favor of keeping this going the way it was. He's trying to be here tonight, but technology is hindering him. I did go walk the property before. I mean, there's just a lot of gullies to it. It's not usable land for anything unless you have a use for a gully. So, like I say, I think we should just go on with the course that we were going on. So thank you.
Thank you for that. Councillor Glinsky.
Madam Mayor, I don't see why we're here. We, as a council, met in December, I believe, and it was duly passed, and it was passed by Land Division, I believe. I heard that. Why are we wasting time going over this again a second time? It's already been passed. Why are we doing this?
Thank you for that question. I think it's a different step in the process, but I'll let Mr. Steele maybe just describe why this has to come back. It's not the exact same application, it's the follow-up, but you can explain that better than me.
Member to the councillor. Yes, so the original application was for the severance, which was, again, supported by township council and approved by Land Division Committee. As part of that process, created lots have to comply with minimum lot area and frontage requirements of the zoning bylaw. And so as a condition, the requirement was placed for a zoning bylaw amendment application to be filed, which does require a public meeting under the Planning Act. So that is what we're meeting tonight, is to go through the process of bringing forward the application for consideration by council to have that proposed retained lot be recognized in the zoning bylaw to have a site-specific zone for the proposed reduced lot area.
Thank you. Councillor Glinsky.
Madam Mayor, why are we, or why is the people that are looking into this asking us to decline this?
Mr. Steele, I'll ask you to comment.
So yeah, previous comments or recommendation on the severance application were based on a review of provincial and municipal planning policies regarding what are called minor lot boundary adjustments, which are recommended under the original statement and county and local official plans. And sort of comments of concerns of the proposed conveyance would be too large to be considered minor. Whether the retained lot would be of a size sufficiently large enough to provide flexibility in future agricultural operations, which is a criteria in the official plan. So considering that the zoning bylaw influence that, our sort of comments are similar to the consent application, but we recognize that Township Council did support the previous consent application.
So our staff are following the rules, and then we have the ability to apply the context, like a three-dimensional context that the rules are not easily able to reflect. So so that's why we have the discretion, the same way we applied for or approved the consent before.
Madam Mayor, so when we vote on this policy, what are we actually saying? We're saying no to the severance? We're saying yes to the severance, or where are we going with this?
So when we pass, I think staff have suggested, have prepared the bylaw in anticipation that we might want to be consistent with our previous vote. I think have prepared a bylaw that will allow this to proceed, that will approve it. So I think that's what we will read. So there'll be two resolutions, one to adjourn the meeting and one to, Councillor Leach, I see your hand. Thank you. So one to adjourn the meeting and one to approve the bylaw. Does that clarify? And you'll get a chance to hear the motion in full when the clerk reads it. So we'll wait for that. That's probably the easiest way. For now, Councillor Leach.
So if this particular zone requested or we're trying to make it fit this particular one, is there a different zoning bylaw amendment that would fit this particular land use and size?
Remember the councillor, so the proposed zoning of the A1-24 section zone would be the appropriate zone if council wish to continue supporting the application and permit the reduced lot area. That's sort of basically what staff have provided in terms of if council does want to approve, what would the policies need to state to allow that. So the current proposed zone as attached to the agenda would be the most appropriate for if this application is approved.
Thank you.
Any further comments? Councillor Glinsky?
Madam Mayor, can we hear the new zoning bylaw as it's been revised?
So we'll adjourn the meeting first, the public meeting first, and then we'll consider, council will be asked to consider a motion that has the bylaw, and then you'll get a chance to hear it in full. So we'll proceed with, if there are no further questions or comments, we'll proceed with the adjournment, please.
That the public meeting relating to the zoning bylaw amendment application of 584012 Ontario Limited Co. Bert Brower relating to the property located at concession 5, part of lot 31, 32, and 33, and known municipally as 52773 Chalet Line B, adjourned at 7:39 p.m.
Mover and seconder for the adjournment, please. Councillor Lewis moves, Councillor Glinsky seconds, all in favor? That is carried. And now consideration.
So I'm going to read the original motion and then you can vote. And if need be, there's an alternative.
Okay.
Okay. The report number DS 2438 entitled Zoning Bylaw Amendment Application of 584012 Ontario Limited Co. Bert Brower relating to property located at concession 5, part of lot 31, 32, and 33, 52773 Chalet Line be received, and that the zoning bylaw amendment application of 584012 Ontario Limited Co. Bert Brower relating to property located at concession 5, part of lot 33, 32, and 33, 52773 Chalet Line, Township of Malahide, be denied for the reasons set out in this report.
Okay, so the motion on the table reflects the initial recommendation from staff. So we'll vote on that first, and then we have the option to consider another motion afterwards. So on that motion for the application to be denied, can I have a mover and seconder? Just so we can vote on it. Counselor Lewis moves. Counselor Wilson seconds. All those in favor? All those opposed? Right, so that motion does not carry. So I will ask the clerk if we could proceed with the alternative.
The report number DS 2438 entitled zoning bylaw amendment application of 584012 Ontario Limited Co. Burt Brower relating to property located at concession 5, part of lot 31, 32, and 33, 52773 Chalet Line be received, and that zoning bylaw amendment application number D14 Z0824 of 584012 Ontario Limited relating to the property located at concession 5, part of lot 31, 32, and 33, 52773 Chalet Line, Township of Malahide, be approved notwithstanding the recommendations for denial outlined in this report.
Mover and seconder, please. Deputy Mayor Widner moves. Counselor Lewis seconds. All those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you for that. Thank you, Mr. Steele. Again, nice to see you in person. Come again. Oh, and you're staying for later too. My, that was really worth your while.
Say that.
Have a good evening. Okay, so next on the agenda, we have no delegation. There's no consent agenda or unfinished business, so we'll move to new business. Oh, no.
Still doing a meeting to consider.
Oh, yes, yes, I did skip this one. Right. So next is a meeting to consider the Laidlaw drain. And for that, we have Mr. Spreet. Over to you.
Thank you, Your Worship. Tonight's meeting is the consideration of the Laidlaw drain branches. These are new branches. The landowners on the south side of College Line, they obtained drainage for their tile drainage through existing private drains that crossed under College Line. They weren't municipal, they had no status. With the reconstruction of this portion of College Line, it was important to make them municipal, so the landowners knew of this, they were aware of it. And they all signed for legal outlets for their lands to cross College Line. So what we're proposing to do tonight is to construct 3 new branches and extend 1 branch. So they'll be replacing existing private drains that were already there. I should point out, because College Line is currently being reconstructed, these crossings were installed recently so that they don't disrupt the construction schedule for the reconstruction of the road. Are there any questions?
Thank you for that. Any questions, comments? Not seeing any. So we can proceed with the motion, please.
That the engineer's report for the Laidlaw drain be accepted, and that bylaw number 2438 being a bylaw to provide for the Laidlaw municipal drainage works be read a first and second time and provisionally adopted.
Thank you. Mover and seconder. Counselor Wilson moves. Counselor Leach seconds. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you, Mr. Spreet
Thank you.
and Mr. Lopez, briefly. And we'll let the deputy mayor back in. So now we can proceed to new business. And we go back to Mr. Steele.
Your mic might be better now that I turn the volume up for her too.
Okay. And we appreciate everyone bearing with us as we adjust to our new setup and new technology and sound and everything. So it's a work in progress. So Mr. Steele, your first application for consent to sever, can you walk us through the report, please?
For council tonight are 2 severance applications submitted for 49757 Talbot Line. The owners of the property are proposing to create 2 new residential lots within the suburban area east of Aylmer along the south side of Talbot Line. So Before council tonight are two severance applications for the property at 49757 Talbot Line, proposing to create two new residential lots within the suburban area east of Aylmer on the south side of Talbot Line. The two new residential lots would have areas of approximately between 2,700 and 2,800 square meters, with frontages of approximately 42 meters on Talbot Line. The existing dwelling and accessory buildings would be wholly contained on the retained lot, as well as the existing septic system. The proposed severance would meet criteria and policies under the provincial policy statement, county and township official plans, and would comply with the minimum lot area and frontage requirements of the zoning bylaw. Then this will also be serviced by municipal water and private septic. The proponents have undergone consultation with MTO or Ministry of Transportation to determine if there's any specific requirements, and the ministry has commented that they find the frontages acceptable and that have noted they will be required to obtain the necessary entrance and permit approvals from the ministry. Additionally, portions of the property are designated regulated by the Conservation Authority, and so as noted, any future development within those areas would require permits from the Conservation Authority. And so overall, staff will recommend these applications be supported, subject to the recommendations being forwarded to Land Division Committee for its consideration. And I'd like to take any questions from members of council.
Thank you. Comments or questions? Deputy Mayor Widner?
Yes, thank you, Mayor, through to Eric. I see there's one spot it says you have to kind of connect to municipal water, but are wells allowed if there's suitable water found there?
I believe that depends on the connections. A certain, I believe that it's optional along Talbot Line, based on, I believe it's based on requirements, like for example, I think connections along Nova Scotia maybe. Let me clarify. The requirements for connecting variably within the township depending on the water system they connect to. It's my understanding that the owners are looking to connect to municipal water and have already spoken with township staff about how that process and move forward with those connections.
So, okay, but if they want to have their own well, I was talking to the owner today, he came to see me, like, he questioned them, he said, I've got lots of water. There is a water line there that services the church, I guess. But they could have their own private well if they wanted to.
Through Madam Mayor, the councilor, I don't know for certain. I know what specific requirements for this property are. Based on information provided with the application, the information that staff has is that it's intended these lots will be serviced by municipal water. And it's my understanding that Public Works staff have been in communication with the owners. Director of Public Works wants to comment further.
Mr. Godby, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you to Deputy Mayor. There is no requirement stating that they must connect to municipal water. It has been noted that these properties do have frontage on a municipal water main. So should they choose to, that option is also available. And they have been in contact, the property owner has been in contact with our manager of water and wastewater operations on that. So I think they're kind of doing a bit of cost analysis at this point to see whether they will actually tie in, because that will involve dealing A with us and B with the MTO as opposed to drilling a well. So it's kind of left in their court. Should these lots be created, they can choose their own adventure.
Thank you.
Good, thank you. Further questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll proceed with the motion then.
The report number DS 2433 entitled Application for Consent to Sever D10 E53/54-24 of James and Barbara Hotkey, authorized agent Eugenio De Mayo, be received, and that the application for consent to sever D10 E53/54-24 of James and Barbara Hotkey, located at concession 6 North Part Lot 15, concession STRN, Part Lot 88, RP 11R1450, Part 1, and RP 11R6231, Part 1, Township of Malahide, 49757 Talbot Line, be supported for the reasons set out in this report, and that this report and the recommended conditions be forwarded to the Land Division Committee for its review and consideration.
Thank you. Mover and seconder, please. Deputy Mayor Widner moves, Councillor Lewis seconds, all in favor? That is carried. And we have one more application for a development agreement application on Clinton Street. Mr. Steele.
So this property at 51211 Clinton Street was previously subject to a minor variance application to permit a reduced setback from a municipal drain to an accessory building. That application was approved subject to a condition that the owners enter into a development agreement, which created stipulations that any fencing on the eastern boundary of the property may need to be removed to accommodate any future maintenance or works done on that drain would be at the sole expense of the owner. The owners are now seeking to obtain a building permit for that accessory structure, and so are looking to satisfy this condition. And so before council tonight is a bylaw and draft development agreement for its consideration and approval to proceed forward with having it signed, executed, and registered.
Okay, thank you. Questions or comments? Pretty straightforward, I think. Sorry, we continue to making sure that the audio is working for everyone. So our clerk is multitasking. I really, really appreciate that. Are you ready for the motion?
That report number DS 2436 entitled Application for Development Agreement as per minor variance of Kayla and Jason Smith be received, and the council pass bylaw 2443 being a bylaw to authorize the execution of a development agreement with Kayla and Jason Smith pursuant to section 45 of the Planning Act RSO 1990 and minor variance application number D13 MV08B-21.
Thank you. Mover and seconder, please. Counselor Leach moves, Counselor Wilson seconds. All in favor? That is carried. Okay, and now that's it for you, Mr. Steele. Now I'll say enjoy the rest of your evening and thank you again for coming to our new chambers. Next, we turn to Mr. Gobby for a number of reports, starting with the playground surface supply and installation tender results. Mr. Gobby.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you to council. Report PW 2433 is playground surface supply and installation tender results. As part of our 2024 capital plan, we had included a project for the addition of new playground surface materials at a number of parks. That is for Mill Street Park, MCP, South Dorchester Community Hall, and Wanacott Park. We had put the tender out and received some favorable results. So we are looking to award this work to Quality Turf Supply. They have provided playground surface materials in the past, and we've been satisfied with those results. So with that, if there are any questions, I will happily entertain them.
Thank you. Questions, comments? Counselor Wilson.
Through you, Madam Mayor, since there's a surplus there, any chance for any improvements in any of the parks? I had some people asking about maybe getting some benches in where the skate park thing is. There's nowhere to sit for anyone that wants to watch the kids sort of roll around there. So that's just a suggestion.
Mr. Gobby.
Through you, Madam Mayor, to Councillor Wilson, I am always happy to entertain such requests. If it's council's desire to direct staff down that road, we can definitely do some more investigation of how we could arm wrestle that extra money out of our treasurer here and see what we can do. So we would happily take any feedback and can report back to council with some options or pricing if that is your desire.
Perhaps what I might suggest is if you can forward the ideas and suggestions, and maybe since we're not too far from budget deliberations, believe it or not. And I think there were other things that were mentioned even when we were discussing the dog tags and perhaps other parks improvements. So I think that's a really good point and maybe considered as part of budget deliberations. Would that be agreeable to staff as well? Okay. Okay. So it gives you a little bit of time to look at options and costings and then put that and see what that looks like with the rest of the budget. Excellent. Any further comments or questions? Deputy Mayor?
Yes, thank you, Mayor, through you to Mr. Godby. These are engineered wood fibers. Is there flame retardant built into them?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to the Deputy Mayor, that is a great question. I unfortunately don't know. I would assume that they're not going to be overly combustible considering their use in playgrounds everywhere. But if that is something I can definitely look into if you wish.
Yes, thank you. Just after seeing wood chips on that fire go up so fast, I just wanted just, you know, it can happen. Somebody throws a cigarette into them and poof. So I'm just curious. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Any further comments or questions? And Deputy Mayor, are you okay with proceeding with the tender award? And we'll look into the,
Might cost us $10,000.
so, and then we'll clarify that particular aspect. Fingers crossed that's been considered because of the way they're being used and recommended for those parks and accessibility, but we'll clarify. But if that's okay, we'll proceed for this evening. Okay, that's okay with everyone. The motion, please.
That report number PW 2433 entitled Playgrounds Surface Supply and Installation Tender Results be received, and that staff be authorized to enter into an agreement with Quality Turf Supply for the supply and installation of playground surface material at the Mill Street Park, Malahide Community Place, South Dorchester Community Hall, and Wanacott Park.
Mover and seconder, please. Counselor Glinski moves. Counselor Wilson seconds. All in favor? That is carried. Mr. Gobby, next is the petition for drainage. Hey ho.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Before you, report PW 2432 is petition for drainage for Hayho. As council may recall, Spreed Associates have been appointed to prepare a new engineer's report for the Pritchard drain, which is in proximity to this area. As a result of that, it's the petitioner has identified another parcel of land in proximity that they are looking to have improved drainage on. So due to that, they signed a petition and have requested that while the work being done for the Pritchard drain is ongoing, that they look at extending a drainage improvement down to this area so that they can also improve the drainage at that portion of the lands along their property. With that, we are suggesting that George Varican of Spreed Associates, while doing his work on the Pritchard drain, also absorb this petition into his work and figure out a solution under one drain report. If there's any questions, I'll gladly answer.
Thank you. Questions? Seems like a good idea. Then good opportunity. So we'll proceed with the motion, please.
That report number PW 2432 entitled Petition for Drainage Hayho be received, and that George Varican of Spreed Associates be appointed to prepare an engineer's report for the Hayho petition. It being noted that the petitioner is requesting this petition to be incorporated into the engineer's report currently being prepared for the Pritchard drain improvement.
Mover and seconder, please. Counselor Leach moves, Counselor Lewis seconds, all in favor. And that is carried. We'll just wait for Counselor Glinski to join us. Meanwhile, Mr. Govey, we have another petition for drainage. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Report PW 2426 is petition for drainage for dike. Essentially, as a result of a condition of severance that has been previously approved by council, this petition has been received in order to provide a legal and adequate outlet for the severed property. So what we have is looking at having a drainage extension of approximately 200 meters to the Bobbitt drain, which is going to be required to facilitate that severance. If you look on page 77 of your agenda, you can see a quick overview of it. And if there are any questions, I will happily answer.
Thank you. I'll open it up for questions or comments. Not seeing any, so I'll entertain the motion, please.
The report number,
Oh. Councillor Leach, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So would this be a drain adjacent to the road, or would this be at the back of the property?
Mr. Lopez or Mr. Govey?
I can answer that, your worship. Good evening. Through you, your worship, to Councillor Leach. The drain ends in the ditch along the road right now. However, there is a branch that runs in behind the properties immediately adjacent to where the drain is. So there's basically two routes they could possibly take, and it'll be up to the engineer to decide which would be the best route to install the new drain.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. Good question.
You're welcome.
Any further questions or comments? So now we'll entertain the motion. Thank you.
report number PW 2426 entitled Petition for Drainage Dike be received and that George Varikin of Spreed Associates be appointed to prepare an engineer's report for the dike petition.
Mover and seconder. Councillor Glinski moves, Councillor Leach seconds. All in favor? That is carried. The next report is a tender award for the Ketchupah drain. Mr. Govey.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you to council, report PW 2428 is a tender award for the Ketchupah drain. We are recommending that the tender be awarded to Van Gorp Drainage to complete the work. Essentially, if you look on page 78 of your agendas, you will note that the original engineer's estimate was for $147,800, and this tender result from Van Gorp, being the low bid, is for $158,448,000. With that, I just wanted to note that council is required to award this, even though it is higher than the original engineer's estimate. And that is just a provision of the Drainage Act, where if it is within, as long as it is not over 133% higher than the original engineer's estimate, that as per the act, that we are to award the work. So essentially, when this work is completed, the assessment schedule will be modified based upon the actual costs of construction. And so there will be likely relatively minor differences in the total assessed costs from the original proposed engineer's report to what will actually be finalized upon construction completion. If there's any further questions, we will gladly answer them.
Thank you. I'll open up for questions or comments. Seeing none, the motion, please.
The report number PW 2428 entitled Tender Award Ketchupah Drain be received and that the tender for the Ketchupah Drain be awarded to Van Gorp Drainage in the amount of $158,448 plus applicable taxes.
Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Lewis moves, Councillor Glinski seconds. All in favor? That is carried. Next report from Public Works is another tender award for Priester Drain.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you to council, report PW 2429 is a tender award for the Priester Drain. Very similar to the previous report. This was tendered, and we do have the low bid from Van Bree at being $387,235. And this is again over the engineer's estimate. However, again, due to the fact that it is not over the 133%, I do note that we are required under the Drainage Act to award the work. And again, they will the actual project costs will be redistributed based on the assessment schedule as previously identified in the engineer's report. If there's any questions, I will gladly answer.
Thank you. Questions? Councillor Glinski.
Madam Mayor, is there any reason that there was only one bid for this?
Through
Through you, Madam Mayor, to Councillor Glinski. I see Mr. Lopez also shaking his head a little bit there. We don't really understand why there was a limited interest in completing this work, but Van Bree did submit a bid, and they are perfectly qualified in order to complete it. So we are recommending that we proceed with that.
if I may add, Jason. Through you, your worship, there is another company who does this type of work that has, done lots of work in our township, and I believe they're currently going through a restructuring, as well as they're extremely busy right now. So I'm assuming that's why we only got one bid for this particular one, because this is a large drain, and it's a lot of money. So yeah.
Thank you for that context. Thank you. There are no further comments. A motion, please.
That report number PW 2429 entitled Tender Award Priester Drain be received, and that the tender of the Priester Drain be awarded to Van Bree Drainage in the amount of $387,235 plus applicable taxes.
Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Leach moves. Councillor Wilson seconds. All in favor? That is carried. The next report, so we let our deputy mayor join us again, is the Pressley Line reconstruction deferral. Mr. Gobby.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you to council. Report PW 2434 is Pressley Line reconstruction deferral. I will preface all of this with stating that, staff were making their best efforts to try and get this work completed in 2024. However, basically due to some delays beyond our control, mainly relating to the relocation of some of the other underground and above ground utilities in that area. Staff have kind of come to the conclusion that it might not be in our best interest to start this work this year, and that we may be better off to delay the work into 2025. That being said, I identify three options within the report. One is to proceed with construction in 2024 as planned. The major concern with this is that we would be looking at applying surface treatment to this road section probably into November. At that, you typically are not getting the required heat units and traffic to properly compact the surface prior to a winter where you may just end up shaving your entire road surface off with our snowplows. So for that reason, we don't really want to go that direction. Another option would be to proceed with all of the actual road base and construction of the drainage works that are required in 2024, but defer just the surface treatment until 2025. The biggest issue with that would be that we would be leaving it gravel all through the winter months and causing a significant disruption to the residents in the village by having this piece of gravel road open for about 6 or 7 months. So for that reason, staff were also not recommending proceeding in that fashion. Really, from our perspective, the best, most efficient way to complete the work with minimal disruption to the village is to just pause in 2024. We'll get the utilities and other minor site works done that we can this year, and just kick off and complete the whole project in 2025. So with that, it is our request that staff be authorized to amend our existing agreement for surface treatment with Duncor to reflect that this portion of their work is going to be deferred to 2025. I will note that Duncor has agreed to hold pricing. Their 2024 pricing that they gave us through our tender, they are willing to hold that for 2025 for this work. On the aggregate side, we had also tendered that. However, we have been advised that they're unable to, due to the large quantities of aggregate, they can't hold that pricing for us just due to the volatile nature of the market and fuel pricing and all that. So what we would do is include that in our 2025 tender. We would just defer that work to that tender, and we are requesting that the funds previously approved in the 2024 capital budget be carried over to 2025. So we're not going to be asking for a new budget or a new project for this. We're just saying we're not spending it in 2024. Let's just hold that money over to 2025. With that, if there's any questions or concerns, I'm happy to discuss.
Thank you. Comments, questions, concerns? Deputy Mayor.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Through you to Mr. Godby, I totally agree with deferring this because it's, it's tricky enough to get something right the first time when the weather is good, depending on your rain and such. So I totally agree with him. They don't want a gravel road half the winter, so I would certainly support deferring it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Leach.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. If we did proceed with option number 2, is that going to ultimately cost more because we'd have to add more aggregate in the spring to compensate for the rutting of the surface? I am a proponent of option number 3, but I just was curious about the second option.
Through you, Madam Mayor, to Councillor Leach. That is a good point and a good question. Yes, likely. It could end up costing more just because, as you say, we're going to lose some aggregate during winter control activities, assuming that we have snow. It does also cause some issue with actual winter maintenance activities from this perspective that normally you also do not apply salt to gravel roads. So typically what ends up happening is when the gravel roads are plowed, you're just using a truck that is applying sand. So here we'd have a sand and salt truck in the village, which we'd then have to skip over this part and send just a sand truck back. You have issues with potholes and road grading and all that stuff. So now we got to send the grader up. So it's a combination of all these factors that have led us to our request for council support in deferral.
Thank
you. Good question. Councillor Leach?
Thank you.
Oh, that was a thank you. Okay. Just making sure. Any further questions or comments? It looks like the consensus is to support the request. So is the motion written that way?
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, go ahead, please.
The report number PW 2434 entitled Pressy Line Reconstruction Deferral be received, and that staff be authorized to amend our existing agreement for surface treatment with Duncor Enterprises relating to the Pressy Line reconstruction work to reflect the deferral of the work until the 2025 construction season, and further that the funds previously approved in the 2024 capital budget for this project be carried over to 2025.
Thank you. Mover and seconder, please. Counselor Wilson moves, Counselor Glinski seconds. All in favor? That is carried. Okay, so thank you, Mr. Gottby. We have one more item in new business, I believe, which is the ECC Board of Management correspondence for joint application for grant funding. Will anyone or does council wish for any member of staff to speak to this, or is pretty self-explanatory? Any questions or comments? That's something I think the board, the ECC board approved. Not seeing any questions or comments, so we'll proceed with the motion, please.
That the Council of the Malahide Township direct staff to participate in a joint funding application to the Canadian Heritage Celebrate Canada Funding Program for Canada Day celebrations in 2025 and provide confirmation to the EECC board.
Thank you. Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Leach moves, Councillor Lewis seconds. All in favor? That is carried. We now move on to bylaws. And we can do them as one, based on the discussions from earlier. So we have several bylaws from Clinton Street, bylaw enforcement, the rezoning, the Ketchabah drain, Priester drain, and the tax rate we haven't discussed yet, right? So yeah, maybe we'll do the tax rate so we can consider all the bylaws at once. Mr. Boylan, please.
Thank you. So we noticed we're about to send out the final bills to residents. We noticed an error on our tax rates bylaw. Special area levy rate in Springfield, the pipeline class had an error on its tax rate that would result in us under collecting our levy by $64. So we're looking to get that adjusted before we send out the bills. Thank you.
Good catch. Good catch. I mean, that seemed like much, but I'm sure there's nothing like, not being able to reconcile to the penny, right? So thank you for that. Any questions or comments on that? So we'll proceed with the bylaws, please.
That the following bylaws be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed. 2443 Development Agreement of 51211 Clinton Street. Bylaw 2444 for the bylaw enforcement officer appointment. Bylaw 2445 for the 2024 tax rate bylaw. Bylaw 2448 for the Langlos rezoning of 51150 Ron McNeil line. And bylaw 2442 of 584012 Ontario Limited Co. Bert Brower for the rezoning of 52773 Chalet line. And that the following bylaws now be read a third time and finally passed. Bylaw 2429 Ketchabah drain third reading, and bylaw 2431 Priester drain third reading.
Thank you. Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Lewis moves. Councillor Wilson seconds. All in favor? No. Before the vote, Councillor Glinski, comment or question, please. The bylaw that was passed. Thank you. So I'll call the vote then. All those in favor? And that is carried. We're ready to move into committee of the whole. Wondering if council wishes for just a 5-minute recess before the next set of reports. It's almost an hour and a half, yes. So we'll do the resolution to move into committee of the whole, and then we'll recess and then we'll resume the reports.
Resolved that we do now move into the committee of the whole.
Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Glinski move, Councillor Lewis second, all in favor. That is carried. And we'll take a 5-minute recess. Thank you. Okay, welcome back. So we're now in committee of the whole and looking business for consideration. We'll do just a small switch. So the last item on the agenda is the drainage update report, which I think Mr. Lopez is going to walk us through or at least be available for questions. So we thought for his sake, it would be nice if we just started with that and then we'll move on with the other reports, if that's okay with everyone. What page number are we on? If we skip ahead,
146.
146.
Thank you.
Okay, so drainage update report. Mr. Godby or Lopez.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you to council, PW 2423 as a drain update report. I appreciate you guys bumping this up the schedule a little bit so we can release Mr. Lopez here once we're done. But as mentioned on page 146 of your agenda, you can see this report is very, very simple and straightforward, but there's a table that starts there and continues on to the next page of 147, just publishing and documenting to council, some of the status of some of the various drains reports that we currently have going on within Malahide. So rather than going through each of those line by line, I would just kind of like to leave it at if council has anything in particular that they're looking for additional information on that is not contained in this report, that now's a great opportunity to ask. And between myself or primarily Bob, we'll do our best to answer those questions for you.
Thank you. Members of council, questions or comments? Deputy Mayor.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Through you to Mr. Godby. The Cook drain, like it's February 2020 and 2019 MTO approval. How long does it take to get MTO approval?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to the Deputy Mayor, that really can be a challenge. I have had it drag on for a number of years, depending on what the current issue is. I don't know if Bob might have some additional context specific to this drain, but I do note that it typically is not anything quick when we're dealing with crossing the MTO highways.
Through you, Your Worship, Deputy Mayor Widner, this is one of my longest. This is the longest drain I have at the moment. I think there was some question or some concern about the driveway configuration that they had proposed for this particular property and the addition that they had planned, and it's just been stuck in MTO limbo for quite some time here. So I've been trying to get this project to move ahead. There is another petition. The neighbor at Frank's Auto has also petitioned for some drainage work, sort of piggybacked on top of this particular project, and he's also anxiously waiting to see when they're going to make up their minds what they'll do here. So, what I think may happen is we may rescind or they may cancel the petition for the church, and then we'll be left with the one petition for Frank's Auto to try and proceed and get him some drainage. But this is an ongoing battle that I have here. So.
Councillor Leach.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to thank Mr. Lopez and Mr. Godby for this report. It's really nice to see it all in one spot instead of having to kind of wonder and flip back and forth between all the different documents and agendas that we receive.
Thank you for that. Any further comments or questions? Seeing none, the motion, please.
The report number PW 2423 entitled Drain Update Report be received.
Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Lewis moves. Councillor Leach seconds. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you, Mr. Lopez. Enjoy the rest of your
Thank you.
evening.
Have a good evening. Thank you.
Okay, so we'll jump back up to Director Boylan first for the 2023 budget performance and financial update, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The purpose of this report is to provide an overview of the township's 2023 budget variances. My report breaks down our budgeted items into 3 areas. The first is our property tax supported operating budget. So for 2023, our property tax supported operating surplus was $552,016. This magnitude of surplus isn't quite typical for us, nor is it something I'd expect to repeat for 2024. Our usual cash basis surplus or budget surplus is around 50,000, in that kind of range. In terms of examining where the surplus came from, my report includes a table which states how each reporting unit fared during the year. My report details any budget variances which exceeded $20,000 for the year. If council wishes for a deeper dive into any specific area, I'd be happy to prepare a report, a follow-up report with additional information, or I can elaborate to the best of my ability tonight. The purpose of the resolution in front of council tonight is to approve a series of reserve distributions to close things off for the year. So first, the township's building services department is funded on a full user pay model, where permits pay for 100% of operating capital costs. So in 2023, we do have a $46,288 operating deficit that I'm recommending that we fund from the Building Stabilization Reserve Fund. Next, we have a $47,326 deficit, being that we spent that much more on county roads than we received through the roads maintenance agreement with the county. I'm recommending this be funded through the county roads reserve, which we will pull that reserve into a further deficit position, which presumably will be funded through future county road RMA surpluses. Next, our special area levy in Springfield generated a surplus for the year as well. So I'm recommending that you put the excess 10,808 funds into reserves, which are dedicated for the use of streetlights and sidewalks in Springfield. And then after accounting for all these transfers, the township has $634,822 surplus funds that are unrestricted and can be allocated or used at council's discretion. So I'm recommending the entire balance is transferred to the capital reserve. Extracting funding from the capital reserve requires a resolution from council, usually through budget. So we'd effectively be deferring the decision on how these funds could be used to our next budget cycle. Moving on, rate supported budget, so meaning water and sewer. We had a $2,507 surplus for water and a $6,838 deficit for sewer. These services were accurately budgeted with no real surprises to report to council. I'm recommending the surplus and deficit be transferred to the water and sewer reserve respectively. Lastly, we have capital. I've included a full schedule of the outcomes of our capital projects for 2023. As noted in the schedule, aside from that, we've spent on capital. We've underspent on capital projects by $110,608. So I'd call that our true capital surplus for the year, although we did have a significant portion of the capital budget carry forward into the 2024 budget. So that funding was earmarked primarily to come from the capital reserve. As such, it was simply not extracted and instead retained within that reserve, so no further action of council is required. And then to wrap things up, I've attached a reserve schedule which shows the changes in forecasted balances for the year. As is usually the case, council will receive another forecast in their upcoming 2025 budget. Thank you.
Thank you. As it is in the committee of the whole section, I'll just open it up for discussion, questions. Deputy Mayor Widner.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Here to Adam. Adam, the county roads deficit of $47,000, like we haven't had bad winters. What is this attributed to? Do you know?
I can only speculate. The agreement includes annual increases for CPI. What we've observed on the township side is that our costs are increasing by more than CPI. And we've kind of noted that through our budget process, that some of these road material supplies especially are increasing beyond just what is being factored into the agreement of just regular CPI, which would include, groceries, whatever. It's a aggregate of all price commodities in the economy. So I would say to date, that's been the primary factor. I'm concerned moving forward because we just renewed our QBE collective agreement, and those costs went up by much more than what inflation is currently accounting for. So I think this trend is going to continue. I don't know where it leads us. I don't know where it leads the county, perhaps another review of the RMA, but it is a very difficult agreement to get perfect. So we'll see where things go. But for now, what we're doing by drawing that reserve into a deficit is simply tracking how much money we've spent on county roads as opposed to what's been funded through the RMA.
Thank you for that question. Follow up?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I guess historically, we have approached the county years and years ago about making adjustments. You know, like fair is fair and equal pay for equal work. So maybe that's something we should bring up at the county level. And I don't know if other municipalities are running. Would you know that at all? Are they running the same as us, or is it just seem to be us?
Anecdotally, I've heard similar complaints. We used to be ahead of the game. If you look back a few years ago, we were I believe I'm safe in saying we had the highest county road surplus in the county, and now we've been drawn into a deficit position. So I imagine the other municipalities aren't faring any better than we are at this point.
Yeah, I think, and the RMA is under a continuous improvement plan. I believe if we can call it that. And I think the last report, that was presented at the county showed like if you take the long view, so far we're probably still ahead, but that may not last long if the trend continues. So something to keep an eye on. Good point. Further comments or questions? I know for myself, to me, the allocation to reserves sort of brought me back to I think early June when we received the asset management plan. And I think it was clearly laid out how just looking after all of our assets and what it would require from the reserves and how that would require at least, I think, was it the 2% at least increase just for keeping our reserves in good shape. So this adds a little bit of flexibility, but I think it seems really wise. I think it was 1.1 million per year. We were going to deplete the reserves over the next 10 years. So this, to me, seems like a wise recommendation to help stabilize that further. So I suppose we'll have additional opportunity to look at that during budget deliberation, as you mentioned. Okay, so if there are no further comments or questions, we'll proceed with the motion.
The report number FIN 2420 entitled 2023 Budget Performance and Financial Update be received, and that the township's 2023 budget surplus be distributed to reserves as recommended.
Thank you. Mover and seconder, please. Councilor Lewis moves, Councilor Wilson seconds. All in favor? That is carried. The next report, again from Mr. Boylan, is the Development Charges Annual Update.
Thank you. This is the first of three reports which basically summarize the status and the details and transactions in some of the township's obligatory reserve funds. So for development charges, our opening reserve balance was approximately 632,000. We collected 161,000 in charges. Our existing funds generated 36,000 in investment income, and we used those funds to fund 152,000 in capital costs, which relates primarily to the MCP, which we hold a debenture for, and the fire hall as well. So that leaves $678,454 in the fund available for 2024. I've also noted in my report that our DC bylaw does expire in September of 2026. So in order to adequately prepare for its potential renewal, the township should be reviewing its growth strategy, specifically how and where it plans to grow. From that, we'd review the necessary infrastructure improvements required to accommodate that growth, and then finally calculate a new development charge which would fund those improvements. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions, comments? Seeing none, The motion, please.
Report number FIN 2421 entitled Development Charges Annual Update be received.
Mover and seconder. Counselor Wilson moves, Deputy Mayor Whitner seconds, all in favor? That is carried. The update on cash in lieu of parkland is next.
Thank you. This report summarizes the township's cash in lieu of Parkland Reserve Fund as required under Section 42 of the Planning Act. As a condition of development, the township may require a developer to convey land or alternatively provide a payment in lieu based on the value of the land otherwise required to be conveyed. So the funding is restricted by the Planning Act and can be only used to purchase additional parkland or enhance the township's existing parks, perhaps through purchase of a bench. Our cash in lieu of Parkland Reserve Fund held approximately 21,000 and collected $1,157 in interest during the year and reached a total of $22,026 by the end of the year. Thank you.
Comments or questions? Bench is being acknowledged. That's good. Counselor Wilson?
Through Madam Mayor. It's nice to see everything laid out and easy to read, and it's fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Counselor Leach?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I mirrored Councillor Wilson's thoughts on our reports this evening. How often are cash in lieu of parkland monies added to reserve? Is it a regular event or is it something that's very sporadic?
I think it was perhaps last year, we went over the fact that this bylaw in the past has been irregularly enforced. So collections, and perhaps that's a reflection of the balance that sits in there itself, relatively low. So there has not been a significant number of transactions in that reserve fund over the years. I will say in 2024, I've seen some collections happening. The bylaw is now being enforced, so perhaps that will come into more of a play in our budgeting for how we fund parkland assets.
Thank you.
Any further questions or comments? If not, then we'll proceed with the motion, please.
That report number FIN 2422 entitled Cash in lieu of Parkland be received.
Mover and seconder. Counselor Wilson moves, Counselor Leach seconds, all in favor? That is carried. The next update is on the Building Stabilization Reserve Fund. Mr. Boyle.
Thank you. The Building Code Act allows for municipalities to store surplus building permit funding in a reserve fund, which can be used to fund operating and capital costs required to enforce the act itself. So at the start of the year, the township did have $637,527 in its Building Stabilization Reserve Fund. Those funds accrued $34,086 in investment income during the year. And as previously reported, the township's building services department did have a deficit of $46,288, which council has now approved a transfer from the Building Stabilization Reserve to fund. So that will draw the balance down to $625,325 for the end of the year. The remaining funds in the reserve can be used to offset further operating deficits caused by potentially slowed down development activity, resulting in reduced annual building permit revenues. Thank you.
Questions? Comments? Ms. Boylan, is there a threshold where it's there is too much in that reserve that we have to be mindful if building were to pick up significantly in the next few years? Is that something that we need to look at?
There's no hard and fast rule. We do have a reserve policy which states a target for this particular reserve fund. We are using a target balance of 2 years of operating costs, which is approximately what's in the reserve fund now. That being said, council could adopt a quote unquote more risky position. I kind of think it is quite a lot of money for the service that we do run anyway. Like maybe 1.5 to 1 times operating costs would be sufficient balance. But I think it's not that there's too much. I just think we have to use what's in there strategically. I think I've noted in the report that we haven't updated our fees since 2015, our building permit fees. And that's on purpose because we don't want to grow that reserve because we're happy with where it's at. Eventually, inflation is going to keep increasing our budget. We're going to start eating away at that reserve a little bit. And then we're going to have to decide how to use that reserve to give our building permit revenue fees a bit of a soft landing. We'll have that luxury of not snapping up those costs. We can kind of gradually increase them and gradually pull upon the reserve to manage our fees as we go forward. But we're not at that point right now. I'm happy with what's in the reserve. I think council should be as well. And it's just something that we should be keeping an eye on moving forward.
Okay, thank you for that additional context. I guess that makes us competitive now. Fees at the 2015 rate. That's good. Any further comments or questions? Seeing none, the motion, please.
The report number FIN 24-23 entitled Building Stabilization Reserve Fund be received.
Mover and seconder, please. Deputy Mayor Whitner moves. Councillor Leach seconds. All in favor? That is carried. And I think that was it for Mr. Borland. Thank you very much. We'll move to our manager of Human Resources, Ms. Lowen, for the update on the health and safety policy under the Occupational Health and Safety Act. The update, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, through to council. Report HR 2406 is our annual update on our health and safety. As you mentioned, it is a requirement under OHSA that we review our health and safety policies, including our respect in the workplace, violence and harassment. So I will just provide a bit of high-level overview on the report content. Something that we've incorporated this year to improve the culture of health and safety and ensuring council's commitment to employees' well-being. We've implemented Safety Hub, which is an online training platform, so to speak. So it covers various topics, and so employees are assigned based on their position to various training that just enhances their knowledge in terms of health and safety. Additionally, we are also utilizing Microsoft 365, which is an excellent tool for being very creative. So I've enjoyed that side of things. So we've created a health and safety employee SharePoint site. What this does is it enables it's similar to a website. So employees have access to it. It's a centralized location for, our health and safety policy, our procedures, hazard alerts, those types of things. So those two things have been added to, just to increase our culture of health and safety. Moving forward in the report, in the table under the OHSA legislative requirements, I've just set out some of the requirements and then how Malahide is either meeting or exceeding the legislative requirements there. Following that is our annual incident update. So we have registered 16 incidences that were reported to us this year. Another enhancement that we've done to the report, so instead of just a report of an incident, we're also looking at what caused the incident and how we can mitigate future incidents similar to that from not occurring again in the future. And then lastly, we have reviewed our respect in the workplace policy, and you will see that we are recommending it to be updated. And so we've essentially created a new policy. And the purpose for that is just to provide additional clarity to staff, as well as modernizing, creating embedded links for ease of access to the various components. that concludes that, and I'll pass that back over to you, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Excellent report. Also easy to read and clear and provides all the information I think we need. So I'll open it up for questions, discussion. Deputy Mayor Widner.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Just one that gets my attention a little bit. It's kind of humorous, but on July 2024, we had a drone possibly hit by a bird strike. Now, was the bird considered at fault? And who took the nosedive in the water, the bird or the drone?
Perhaps both.
And so for the policy, so were there any specific changes for the first policy that you bring? Because we have an opportunity for discussion in the committee of the whole, and then it'll come back for final approval. Were there any changes you wanted to highlight for us? You mentioned the links or the little bit of modernization. Anything else?
Yeah, so what I've done is I've taken specific legislation and linked them right into the document.
Nice.
Additionally, we've expanded on the definitions of what is considered harassment. You know, sometimes I think there's a bit of confusion when, is this a harassing behavior or interaction, or is this because they're just upset about a situation, right? And it doesn't necessarily go under the definition of harassment. So we've also created a bit of a toolkit for employees to, you know, access the ontario.ca website, which has all of those components laid out. So it's a great toolkit for employees to click on and, you know, can understand a bit of the act, what is harassment, and how to, you know, handle those situations. So I think that having all of that really just can assist an employee to understand those differences, differentiate between the two.
Great. Thank you for that. Any further suggestions for improvement on this policy before it comes back to council for final approval? Doesn't look like it, so great job. So we'll proceed with the motion then.
The report number HR 2406 entitled Health and Safety Policy under Occupational Health and Safety Act Annual Compliance Update be received, and that the mayor and CAO be authorized to sign the health and safety policy on behalf of the corporation, and that the revised human resources policy B4.2 respecting the workplace violence and harassment be received for information and further be brought forward for approval at an upcoming council meeting.
Mover and seconder, please. Councilor Lewis moves, Councilor Glinsky seconds. All in favor? That is carried. Okay, so I think this completes the business for consideration. We'll move on to next set of policies from you, Ms. Lowen, on the customer service related policies.
Yeah.
So we've looked at these, I think, a couple months ago, and now they've been polished further. Great work. Please walk us through the highlights.
Sure. Thank you, Madam Mayor, through you to council. Yeah, so these customer service policies were brought forward a couple of months ago. So the intention here this evening is to highlight some of the feedback that we received from council. So thank you very much for that. It's always a good idea to collectively look at policies that affect all of us, right? So what I've done is highlighted some of the changes within the policies, and a lot of these changes were not really in the context, but rather just to create a consistent pattern throughout all of the policies. I will note that we did expand a bit more on the definition of an informal complaint versus a formal complaint, so that those can be differentiated and easier to understand. So that concludes my comments. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for that. So there are 3 policies in total, right? That we're looking at. Yeah.
Yeah, so there's 3 corporate policies, and then there's also the human resources employee policy.
Right.
So that policy is just being revised to include the components of the corporate policies.
questions, comments? And like I said, I think you did a great job of sort of streamlining the process. So I think it's very clear. So this will be available for employees, but also to our residents, and we should clarify the process and for council as well. When we do receive inquiries, then we can, if we're all informed on what the process should be for what's an informal complaint, what's a formal complaint, we can help our constituents. We can advise on who they should call or what forms they should fill, who they should talk to. So further comments on or questions on that? Councillor Leach.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. To Ms. Lowen. Is there a way that is being devised to reach out to our residents so that they have a good idea how they should be interacting with staff?
Yeah, great question through Madam Mayor to Councillor Leach. This is something that we have reflected collectively as staff and how we can communicate, expected behaviors for both customers and employees. And I think the approach that we're going to be taking is just an educational awareness. Once these policies have been adopted by council, we've established a draft website page where we're going to be posting these policies, what some of the expectations are, how to file a complaint, who you can call. So providing all of those mechanisms hopefully will address some of the concerns that customers may have, and hopefully they'll have a better experience, right, in terms of getting access to the information that they need.
Thank you. Follow up? Councillor Leach.
Yes, thank you. Do you have any fun ways in mind to interact with our staff and residents?
CO Diaz.
Yes, so we're looking at and it is a good question because we draft all these policies, and then the sort of the next key aspect towards it is how do we communicate it, right? So part of what we're looking at with a lot of these policies, and where it's possible to put in some sort of process map that can summarize the policy in a one page. So whether it's some sort of like just a map with arrows showing in this step, this is what happens, this is the next step, it can quickly summarize the policy very well for various stakeholders.
I look forward to seeing it. Thank you.
Yes, and we know we have some talented staff who can come up with that. But yeah, I can see some infographic to help, like tip sheets, and because in policy format, it's a little, it's not user friendly. It's not supposed to be because it's a policy, but yeah, communication, education, training, I guess for all of us, so for staff, for council, and for residents will be, that's the key step, implementation, right? Nice. Yeah, this is the foundation. So excellent. Deputy Mayor Widner.
Thank you, Mayor. Just so council knows, I did have a customer concern this week about a severance. So I contacted CEO Diaz, and at the speed of Superman, within an hour, it was all resolved. The customer was called and they were happy. So I really appreciate that. That really helped us out, and the customer is supremely happy. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you for acknowledging that. And that's the whole point of having standards, and joking aside, but that's how you know if you're exceeding standards or below standards and that was one of our objectives in the strategic plan, is to document the standards, communicate them, and then monitor how well we're doing and recognize when we're exceeding standards. So well done. We're on our way. Any further questions or comments? Great work. So we'll proceed with the motion.
That the customer service related policies be received for information, and that the policies attached be brought forward for approval at an upcoming council meeting.
Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Wilson moves. Deputy Mayor Widner seconds. All in favor? That is carried. Okay, so next, any new business? And I don't think there was anything mentioned at the beginning in the approval of the agenda. So that means we should be able to move to correspondence. There are 8 items. We can receive them as one motion unless there's anything that you'd like to comment on, at which point we can separate those. Deputy Mayor.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. The AMO OMA Joint Health Resolution regarding physician shortage being passed by a lot of the councils around here, and I think county, we even kind of looked at this. It's frustrating. We have to keep doing this. Somebody needs to talk to these doctors. To me, it's common sense. Go talk to the doctors. And I've talked to several. I know what the problem is. They just need more money, basically. Otherwise, they'll stay. They're sick of doing all their own paperwork and that kind of stuff. But I guess at AMO that will probably be discussed. And I guess if we can champion anything up there, we should. But I don't know what the answer is. They just seem like there's money for everything but healthcare, which is so important, especially in this area where we're underserviced. So that's it. I would support it.
Any further questions or comments or endorsements? Okay, so the motion, please.
The item O.2 be supported and that the remaining items be received and filed.
Mover and seconder, please. Councilor Lewis moves. Deputy Mayor Widner seconds. All in favor? That is carried. So at this time, we can adjourn the meeting of the Committee of the Whole with the motion, please.
Resolved that we do now move out of Committee of the Whole and reconvene the regular council meeting.
Mover and seconder. Councilor Lewis moves. Councilor Glinski seconds. All in favor? That is carried. That means we, according to agenda, we're ready to proceed with closed session. Can we have a resolution to that effect, please?
The council move into closed session at 9:06 PM pursuant to section 239-2 of the Municipal Act as amended to discuss the following: a personnel matter about an identifiable individual, including municipal and local board employees, section 239-2C.
Mover and seconder, please. Deputy Mayor Widner moves. Councilor Wilson seconds. All in favor? That is carried. Okay, we're now ready to come out of closed session. So may I have a motion for that, please?
The council move out of closed session and reconvene at 10:14 PM in order to continue with its deliberations, and that staff were given direction in closed session on a personnel matter about an identifiable individual, including municipal and local board employees, section 239-C.
Mover and seconder, please. Councilor Leach moves. Deputy Mayor Widner seconds. All in favor? That is carried. Can proceed next with confirmatory bylaw.
That bylaw number 2439, being a confirmatory bylaw, be given first, second, and third reading and properly signed and sealed.
Mover and seconder. Councilor Lewis moves. Councilor Leach seconds. All in favor? That is carried. And now adjournment.
The council adjourned its meeting at 10:15 PM to meet again on September 5th, 2024 at 7 o'clock.
Mover and seconder. Deputy Mayor Widner moves. Councilor Wilson seconds. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you, everyone. Thank you to staff and everyone watching. Enjoy the rest of the evening.